Hey everyone, Winter here, and I am back from LA after going out there for Champions, which was an amazing time. And of course, after theoretically talking about possible changes, Valorant drops a huge patch note, being 7.04 in front of us here while I was out in LA. So today we're going to quick run through the patch, how that affects the current meta tier list, and what I expect going forward. There's lots of good things in this patch that I'm excited for, so let's talk about it. So, their main goal is with this update is to reduce the frequency of large AoE ultimates, reduce the amount of time utilities active, reduce the HP of shootable utility, and then adjust ultimate cost updates to not create these checkmate win conditions that exist right now. So like currently at both like general ranked and at pro level, you save up 2 global alts, you use them in a round, usually you come across the round with a win. It's not fun. It creates really awkward conditions for both attack and defense. And in a game to 13, that's a really, really tough thing to deal with in terms of skill adjustment as well, or skill creep. So, first major change we got is Breach. His aftershock ticks got reduced from 3 to 2. The damage went up so that it can still kill you if it hits both bursts. The big thing with this change, as mentioned, it stops the time that this utility is active. So you have more room to recontest site. It's not just I aftershock. You now have to full wait the 3 burst for us to be able to recontest our plant or play post plant, etc. This is a really good change overall, and it still kills you if all bursts hit. And then the ultimate went up to 9 global alt. We talked about it. Brimstone's orbital strike is going up from 7 to 8. Same thing, global alt. They want to change all global alts to create a little bit more clarity and cost behind them. So Fate's Prowler here, the time to re-equip your gun takes slightly longer after using the ability. I wish they put like how much longer. And also I feel like this change is a change in accordance with other changes we'll get to below, where at some point in their testing they felt Fade was going to skyrocket if her Prowler equip time stayed the way that it was. So this was an adjustment they made to kind of counteract that, and they felt good enough to ship. So maybe this is something that changes. I still think Skye needs this on her flashes. So we'll see if they end up doing any future changes to Skye. I know she's in these patch notes, but just down the line to the same degree. So Gekko got like an adjustment nerf buff, in my opinion. So Mosh Pit now does 10 damage per second before exploding. This was originally what he launched with, but they took it away in concern that it would be too hot. But now his molly is actually something you need to respect. Where previously in the game, like if someone throws a molly, unless there's a ton of other util around it, you don't need to respect it. You can just run right out of it before it explodes, and there's no real fear condition you face compared to other mollies. So this is a pretty significant change. Wingman's HP got reduced. This is in line with all like initiator utility at this point, like drone-esque utility. And then Thrash got a clarity update, which is a pretty big deal. There were a lot of times when using Thrash where you'd be unsure outside the audio queue if it connected, why it didn't connect. So anything that cleans up the clarity is really important. And clarity changes are often like coincided with buffs. So the agent will just be understood better, more players will play it, and thus the agent becomes more effective in the meta. Killjoy got a lockdown alt increase, makes sense with the global alts. Omen got a paranoia update, or I guess an adjustment or fix. So there's no movement velocity imparted when casting. So Omen and Harbor with his cascade, you can move and then throw the utility, and then the utility would scale faster. There's some unsure clarity here. Apparently there was like other patch notes where the change to this, because this makes you think it's a nerf, but apparently the base movement velocity or that was imparted when casting is now like the base speed of the ability in general. So I'm curious if that is the case, which is a pretty significant buff to Omen if so. And then we just have to wait for Harbor to get the same treatment. So maybe they don't feel Harbor needs it right now. But it's definitely nice to get more clarity, right? Like this is a clarity buff. So Skye They want to reduce the distance in which Guiding Light can provide info. They want to reduce the amount of time enemies need to worry about her flash when she flies a great distance. And then they reduce the health of Trailblazer and Seekers to make them slightly easier for enemies to deal with. And then her ultimate also got a cost increase. So Guiding Light now lasts a half a second less, which is okay. I still think the main value of her flash is the info and that there's no weapon draw animation cost to it. And I think that might need to be the next change to put her back in the support role that she belongs in. Trailblazer got its health reduced to be in line with everything else, which is great. And then Seekers got an increase and a slight health decrease. I don't think the health decrease is that big of a deal, but the ultimate increase going up is, because that's less orbs that you can really trade from your teammates and requires more individual kind of pop off to get multiple ults off in a game. So Sova's recon bolt number of scans got reduced 3 to 2. So this is in line with less time utilities active in the world. The other thing that players sort of neglect, which with this change being important, is it brings more linear parity between Sova and Fade and any initiator they bring in the future that's also an info initiator. There's more cost. So now you can choose to have the freedom of, I want to throw my Sova dart wherever, but it's only going to ping twice. Or you can play around the Fade Eye and actually build versatile comps around that aspect. This is a really important change for that. And also, it's a really important change in terms of when you're fighting on site or when an attacking team is scaling on site, on how long you have to deal with this recon bolt being active and stalling you from your progression. So, Viper ult, general ult increase, it's fine. So they talked about here that Gravity Well, they weren't a fan of how Gravity Well was just infinitely better than Nova Pulse. I say infinitely, but in general, like, Gravity Well was the main value of her core abilities outside her wall. So the startup time got increased by 2. The duration time got reduced from 2.75 seconds to 2 seconds. The Nova Pulse startup time got buffed. And then Cosmic Divide now completely blocks audio from the wall rather than muffled. So like with her wall, it used to be like anything within 5 meters to the wall you could hear. Anything outside of that was full deafen. So now it's just full deafen, full muffled. You can't hear, it's just full deafen now on the opposite side of the wall, which is pretty significant. Players will have to actually scale into the wall to contest it. It's not just a free wall pop anymore. That also changes the way that you can use the wall to actually use it more proactively on your attack execute, or even on defense, and get like a free rotation. There's a lot of good things about this change. The Gravity Well change, I think, was targeted specifically at the post plant condition, where a player could play off site, throw a star down, pop a well, and then if you're in that retake scenario, it puts you in a really awkward spot where you have to stick, but at the same time you don't have time to get off the stick to contest. So now if you stick and they prime the Gravity Well, you now have time to get off and actually contest the person long, and it forces the Astra player to actually make that engagement. It's the same exact thing as the weapon reserve ammo changes, where previously players weren't really forced to contest the area. They could just leave site and spray and get rewarded as long as you plant it in the open. So now, if you're that Astra, you can put that star there, but you better be ready to play through it. Otherwise, you will get punished for it. And then Nova Pulse getting a better startup time is just an overall good thing. The stun has its value, and this just gives it a little bit more value. So, the issue with Jett is she does way too much for what her role should be. She eclipses power for any duelist they would bring into the game. Every duelist that has entered the game has been compared to Jett at a fundamental level because she just does too much, right? If we go to here, which we'll talk about this in a bit, and here's the new map Sunset, Jett could prime dash at this barrier and just decide she could use it if an enemy were to peek her from this right side. She could just dash back. If she scales all the way up to this barrier, she could dash back. If she scales up and a defender contests her here, she can dash back, or she can have it all the way up to site and dash in. That's a problem. No other agent really has that utility without being confined to a certain type of area, being chamber. or even Yoru TP, but Yoru TP is not that fast of an animation change. Like, good players can punish a Yoru TP getting out. So that all kind of needs to be constrained a little bit. She needs to be put in her execution style duelist role, and that will create more health within the duelist pool in general. So her dash window got decreased, so same thing. Instead of you priming dash here, you now need to be closer to wherever your intention is to properly utilize it, right? Activation window got slightly increased. This removes the sort of last minute decision and allows her to be punished easier. And it requires you to be proactive, like they say here. You should be able to be proactive using this, not using it as like a get out of jail free card. Cloudburst got its time reduced in half, and then the time to re-equip your gun takes slightly longer after using the ability. There's plenty of scenarios where Jett will be late in a gunfight, can smoke herself, and then just chill, and then still be ready for a fight immediately. So now you need to be ahead with this decision. It's not a get out of jail free card. It's a use this with intention, which is good. That's what her precision kit should be based on. Next, updraft charges reduced 2 to 1. This stops her double updrafting, sliding in the air, getting her knives off, early like double updraft engagements, double updrafts on the site. We saw that in Champions where something double updrafted on Lotus and killed Ethan. Like something was here. And Ethan was like big chilling right here, and something updrafted on top of the box and just eliminated Ethan, which is just absurd, right? Like, that shouldn't have happened. So reducing that is good. It changes the unpredictability, just strips all that. And then Bladestorm got pushed to 8, which is good. Puts it up a Tour de Force Showstopper. She still gets a free reset like no other agent ability can, as long as you get a kill. So all these changes are overall good. So if I were to add like adjustments, nerf, buff, nerf. We sort of saw it a little bit before I swapped, but so Omen got its little adjustment, changed the smoke. These two got nerf buffed. I think Gekko is in a slightly better spot than Astra in terms of changes. And then Jett got hit big. Skye also got nerfed. And then Breach got nerfed. Right? And then we have the rest of the pool. So the rest is just like the global alts, right? Like, these are all sort of like minor changes. Like little love tap. Fade got like slightly adjusted. I'd almost consider fades an adjustment, but so these agents all had like just slight util pushes. In terms of how this changes the meta, this is the current tier list that I have based on my opinion on just your success in solo queue or in like duo queue, in ranked ladder, and kind of a little bit the impact they have in pro play. So currently, like, the B tier are just agents you need a lot to make work. You need a certain condition kind of set around them. A tier, you can play these agents pretty much anywhere right now and probably be fine with them to any degree, depending on what your team comp is. S tier, arguably best agents in the game. C tier, they're not like bad, but they need love or work. And then the D tier for Deadlock, which is ironic, right? She just needs a complete rework at this point. And then this is my opinion on how this will change after 7.04. So I think your big three will still exist. Raze was untouched. Killjoy, even with her ult getting increased, is still going to be very valuable to a team. And then Skye, I just don't think the change is enough to bring her down from the flex spot, but we'll have to see. A tier, I think pretty much all the duelists fall in A tier at this point. Like, the changes to Jett are significant enough to where I still think Jett will be very good. I think it's hyperbole that people are saying Jett's dead, you can't use Jett anymore. Players will find a way to use Jett, and I think her being in that defined execute role will still be very valuable to teams, especially dive comp teams. But doing so opens the door for Neon to come up, Yoru to come up, Phoenix to get a little bit more value, especially in ranked. Like, this is definitely the case, but in pro play, I see all of these agents getting more use, especially with the new maps that are coming in. KO, Chamber, Omen, like, pretty straightforward. Fade comes up a tier due to the visibility difference between the two recon utility. She offers a lot. The Seize is great. 2 Prowlers, the Eye, the Alt. She still has her global alt, which is good. Harbor's global alt was also untouched, which is really good. Gekko's Molly got an adjustment, and the Wingman health changes don't really change his viability, in my opinion. And there's rumors that Sunset is a lower ceiling map, which also enables Dizzy to be a lot more successful as well in terms of getting tech, lineups, and more. And then Neon, I think, natively comes up with Breeze and with both Breeze and Sunset coming in. The main reason for that is this opening A section, which we talked about, is going to be heavy contested, and Neon can easily shoot a relay bolt right here and slow the attacking team scaling down, which is really significant. And she also has relay bolt. She can bounce off this back site and allow her team to scale outwards as well. Same thing for Sunset, really. The relay bolt provides a lot of value for differing reasons that allow you to scale up and get these positions on attack or defense. So I think it'll be great. Astra comes down a little bit. She could probably be bottom end of A tier, but we'll have to see how everything plays out. Viper's global alt comes down. I think it'll just bring her down a little bit. The info reduction of Sova, I think, brings them down a little bit. Same thing with Breach, same thing with Brim. And that doesn't mean these agents are bad, just their usefulness they provided before is just going to change slightly. Sage, still like, probably D tier if we're talking pro play. But she's like okay in ladder. She does her job just due to players not communicating. And Deadlock's still D tier just due to the communication issues. So that's it. That's it for patch 7.04. That's what I got for you. Hopefully this patch does shake up the meta. Definitely feel, like I said, Skye needs a little bit more of an adjustment. But we'll see. We'll have to see how it all plays out. I do know Sunset is on PBE later today, so I might be able to get some footage of that and give a better idea or a breakdown for that map. So definitely catch that probably soon if I do get into PBE later, which I do have access to. But other than that, thank you guys for all the support recently. Definitely drop a sub, like the video, leave a comment. That all helps me. You guys have been amazing so far in supporting me, and like words can't like explain how much I appreciate that. So stay tuned for the next video, and I will catch you all next time when they're out.